Imagine paying more to fly from Accra to Nairobi than flying from Accra to London. Sounds unbelievable, right? But across Africa, that's the reality. In fact, flying within Africa is often more expensive than flying out of Africa. And it turns out that West Africa is the most expensive aviation market on the continent. But why? The biggest culprit is taxes, and too many of them. In West Africa, passenger service charges are uncoordinated and heavily inflated. Each country sets its own fees with no harmonized system. Ghana charges its rate, Nigeria sets its own, Senegal does the same, and it goes on and on. It's a free-for-all, and passengers pay the price.
You've actually mentioned two of the most expensive destinations in West Africa. Nigeria is number one. The taxes they have is so much. If you look at the airport passenger service tax, it's about $100 one way per passenger. And it graduates. For instance, if I'm flying business class, I may pay more, $150 or $200. But if somebody is flying economy, the present standard international flight is about $100. You come to Ghana, the same thing applies. If you are flying through Kotoka Airport to, let's say, Heathrow, the average one is about $100. Of course, first class passengers and then business class passengers pay a little more. And now we're seeking to introduce additional taxes. For instance, Ghana Airport Company wants to rehabilitate and expand the airport. They're seeking to implement a $50 charge more. That is different from the APS, what we call the Airport Passenger Service Charge. That's already $100. We're not touching that. It should remain. But we're seeking to implement another one called AIDC, Aviation Infrastructure Development Charge, of $15 on each person flying. So typically, if you are flying from here to Heathrow, Airport Passenger Service Charge, $100. AIDC, Aviation Infrastructure Development Charge, $50. That's $150. And then the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority is also seeking to implement $10 per passenger per head, one way, so that it comes up to $160. All these aside, we have carrier-imposed surcharges. The airline itself, there are certain charges it will bring. You look at the fuel and other tax components. Apart from these airport taxes we've spoken about, the government itself charges some taxes. The other build-up of taxes involved. All these compound the problem and makes West Africa one of the expensive destinations we can talk about.
And here's the shocker. The 6 hours it takes to fly from Accra to Nairobi or to Dakar cost more than flying from Accra to London. But why is it cheaper to fly to Europe? Because the European Union has a harmonized aviation system. You can fly through multiple countries, Turkey, Netherlands, Belgium, and still pay lower taxes than an intra-African flight. The difference? Europe operates a single aviation market. Africa does not, at least not yet. So how can Africa solve its problem? Well, the answer already exists. It's called the Single African Air Transport Market, SAATM, under the African Union. The vision? One unified African sky, just like Europe. Harmonized taxes, clear pricing rules, fair competition, affordable travel.
The Africa Continental Free Trade that we have, that we've made so much noise about, for it to succeed, there should be SAATM. The Single Africa Air Transport Market, if it doesn't come into fruition, the Africa Continental Free Trade will suffer. Why? Africa is vast and it's really huge. You cannot say you are moving goods from Kenya by sea and go all the way down South Africa and climb all the way to West Africa and come to Ghana. You can also not say you are moving goods from Ghana to Kenya and move all the way up north through Egypt all the way before you get here. The only means to move goods and people easily is through air transport. So under the Single Africa Air Transport Market, they envision the EU type, where the EU has a single market. That's what they envision, so that we will harmonize all our rules and taxes. So all the countries in the region, we know that when you are flying economy from point A to B for this distance, this is how much you pay. You are flying business from point A to B for this distance, this is how much you pay. That's how SAATM was envisioned. Unfortunately, we have some few countries sign up. They are trying to get a lot more people to sign up, so the implementation has not been what we desired. Ghana, I'm not sure, but Ghana was one of the people who actually championed SAATM, one of the countries that championed SAATM. But the implementation of SAATM itself has not been fully done properly, because we need all the regions, north, south, east, and west, to harmonize their rules, come under this SAATM agreement, so that we find a way to charge the same amount. If it's economy, $50, $50 across board. Not when you feel like charging more, you charge more.
And why do you think the blocs are finding it difficult to get on board or to agree to it?
Protectionism. A lot of them seek to protect their local industries. Even Nigeria was one of the people who didn't want to sign on to SAATM. They spoke a lot about it, but they didn't want to. The key is that they think that I have indigenous airlines. If I make it open, that because of SAATM, free skies, just like Europe, other large carriers on the continent to come to my place and take my market. So some seek to protect their indigenous businesses. And that's one of the key reasons it's not flying.
But why does cheaper skies matter for Africa's future? It's not just about travel, it's about trade. Africa has no continuous railway across the continent, no practical transcontinental shipping routes. Air travel is the only realistic way to move people, goods, and services across Africa. Without cheaper flights, trade remains blocked, tourism suffers, the African Continental Free Trade Area suffers. And Africa, a continent of over 50 countries, contributes less than 3% of global air travel. Not because Africans don't want to fly, but because most simply cannot afford it. Flying should not be a luxury in Africa. It should be a bridge connecting opportunities, markets, and people. Until African countries harmonize their aviation taxes, commit to SAATM, and invest in infrastructure, it will remain cheaper to leave Africa than to move within it. Follow Business Outlook with Vivian Kailoko for more.